Hello, one and all. Welcome to the All Villa, No Filler podcast. Please subscribe, underline that, subscribe, please, onto our channel if you want to get more content like this and get a whole bunch of interviews like Nigel Boyle, the actor from Line of Duty. Great guy, huge Villa fan. Go check it out. Now, why am I here today? Why am I here today talking down a camera lens? Well, the England team has been selected and Ollie Watkins, Aston Villa's own, and Tyrone Mings, neither one of them has been selected for the England team. Oh, that is controversial. Oh, my goodness. Gareth Southgate, you've done it again. You've made yourself somehow even more popular with the Villa fan base than you already were. You're already the prom king. Now you're just prom god or whatever they call it. So, look, let's check out the England team. Let's see who Southgate has picked ahead of our beloved Watkins and Mings. Right, let's start off with Ollie Watkins, right? Because that's the most glaring one, I think. 6 goals in 7 games. And let's be quite frank, Watkins' form since the World Cup break has been exceptional. The time he spent working during the World Cup with Unai Emery has clearly worked for him. And it just feels like things have come together in every sense. Even just the eye test told you that, aside from the stats. You know, when you watch him, his hold-up play, he looks much more confident, much more sure of himself when the ball comes into his feet now. Because I'll be honest, I've had people say his hold-up play was good before, and yes, it was, but I think he was also inconsistent, where there would be numerous games that I can remember where the ball would come to Watkins and it would just keep bouncing off him. Or his touch wouldn't be quite right, or his layoff, a 1-2 wouldn't be in the right spot, So, but it feels like he's become much more consistent with that. And it feels that aside from his hold-up play, finishing has obviously become much more consistent because now he's got 6 in 7. He's got 9 in total for the league this season. And so every aspect of his game looks like it's got back to where he was, or further ahead than he was in probably his best season so far, his debut season for Villa. I remember last year I interviewed Arsblog, which is the leading podcast in Arsenal world. I remember we were talking about, like what kind of players what profile of player might suit an Arsenal. And I said, you know what? And this was sort of January of last year. I said, I think Ollie Watkins would actually be a really good addition to Arsenal. Just because of the style of player he is. He's versatile, can play out wide, play as the striker. He's very busy, physical, much more physical than I think we probably give him appreciation for. But then obviously things didn't really work out for him under Steven Gerrard. It didn't really work for him when Danny Ings was at Villa. And it's probably not a massive coincidence that since Ings left, that before Ings came in, Watkins was really in form. And since Ings left, Watkins' form has gone through the roof. Now, there's probably 2 factors there. One, Unai Emery has clearly said to him, you are my striker. I have picked you. So that's got to surely give him a level of confidence. On top of that, it means he doesn't have this confusion in his head of thinking, well, is Ings going to get in ahead of me? And then Ings starts a few games, Watkins doesn't. Then he has to play his way back into form again. And when you're a striker, you want to get your goals quickly. And on top of that, he also isn't going to be shoehorned in with Ings in some odd 2-man striking formation that just simply did not work, which is why I personally supported the sale of Ings to West Ham for 15 million quid when we made it in the January transfer window. And I think it's currently been shown to have been the right move, really, as much as we liked Ings and as talented a player as he is. But I think Ollie Watkins, it's no coincidence that he's gone up a level. 1, since Ings left, and 2, working with a high-level, exceptional coach in Unai Emery. And I think that Watkins definitely can count himself incredibly unlucky that he's not been picked for England. Now, let's see who Mr. Southgate did pick, as I was going to say probably 20 minutes ago now. Right, so the front 6 he's picked. The main strikers are Harry Kane, right? Well, of course you're going to pick Harry Kane unless you're insane. Marcus Rashford, who you're also going to pick unless you're insane. and Bukayo Saka, who you're also going to pick unless you're, as crazy as Dr. Robotnik from Sonic the Hedgehog. So look, those three players have been incredible this season. Rashford's improvement from last year, considering I thought he was gone off the boil totally, has been incredibly heartwarming. He's amazing player at the moment. Saka, exactly the same. Amazing player. And Ivan Toney now is the other striker that's been picked. The other number 9, I would say, whereas you'd say Bukayo Saka and Rashford are more wide players who come cutting in. Though Rashford does play that, central striker role. You'd say you'd be more familiar with sort of Toney and Kane fulfilling that central spot. And you would say, who's the player that Watkins is most alike? Well, he's kind of a hybrid, actually. He's quite similar to Rashford and Saka in the sense he plays out wide. He's very pacey, he's strong. Is he as talented as those two? No, but very few people are. But Ivan Toney, now, does he deserve to be in the team ahead of Watkins? Well, on the whole of the season, if you're going to go on the entire season, you would say yes, because let's look at his stats, right? Let's go to Stat Corner here, a place I rarely occupy too regularly because it's not my expertise, but what is my expertise? I don't know. But look, 16 goals in 24 games for Ivan Toney. 16 goals in 24 games. 4 assists. He's the absolute linchpin in a Brentford team that has been in amazing form since Aston Villa battered them 4-0 under Aaron Danciola. So I think he does warrant that pick, and I don't think we can begrudge Southgate too harshly for giving Toney another chance to prove himself in the England setup. Now, the other 2 forwards that have been selected are Phil Foden and Jack Grealish. Now, both have been a bit in and out of form, but that's kind of what happens at Man City because it's impossible to pick City players in fantasy football because you never know who the hell Pep Guardiola is going to pick himself. He's kind of like the Dr. Robotnik of Premier League football, isn't he? You can imagine him as like somebody Sonic or Mario has to fight at the end of a video game. Maybe that's the next FIFA game. It's like you win the league, but then you have to face off against Pep Guardiola as some sort of Dr. Robotnik firing footballs at you at 100 miles an hour. What am I talking about? But look, Phil Foden and Jack Grealish, they both can play off a striker or they can both play out wide. They both just offer something different to what the other forwards offer. And it's, again, totally understandable why they got picked. So I think the way to look at it is that Ollie Watkins deserved to be picked by England. And I think that every time he's ever played for England, he's looked really good. And I think you really see his pace when he plays for England. Maybe the system just allows him to sprint forward more. I don't know. But he's done very well for England when he has got the opportunity. And I think he'd be a great asset to them. And I think the way to look at it positively is that Unai Emery gets to work with him for another 2 weeks straight to continue improving and just get into his ear and say, look, there's no reason you shouldn't be playing for England right now. All you've got to do is just reproduce the form you've shown in the last 7 games, the last 10 games. Do it over the entire season again. Aim for 20 goals, because he can do that given the chances we create and the chances he gets. So use it as a positive, use it as something to drive him and to prove Southgate wrong. And eventually it becomes undeniable. You have to pick him. And so his chance should come again. And I'm certain that the form he's in now will continue under Unai Emery, who has said, you are my main striker. And can then, he picked him over Ings, picked him over Archer, who's now at Middlesbrough. So there we go. I'm feeling good about Ollie Watkins, and I can't wait to see what he does for the rest of the season. Now, Tyron Mings is one of the most underrated players in the Premier League, right? Because opposition fans seem to just think he's a weak link. Rio Ferdinand, before the Euros, was saying the opposition team has to target Tyrone Mings. Now, in fairness, Ferdinand apologised for that because it was wrong to say that, and Tyrone Mings totally proved him wrong anyway. Because Mings at the Euros, when he played the first 3 games, because Harry Maguire wasn't available, Mings didn't make a single error. He was very good on the ball. And that is something you could argue for Mings right now, is that since Emery came in, we have started to play a more deliberate style. At the back, we'll pass it around, we keep possession. And I went to the Crystal Palace game a couple of weeks ago, and I was sat right by the pitch, right by where he was playing in the first half. And every time he got the ball, he would wait, look to his left, and there would be an option of Alex Moreno or Luca Dean. He'd wait for the opportunity, pass it to them, or wait for Douglas Luiz to come to him, pass it to him. And at no point did he think, I better just lump it forward again, which is what we were doing under Steven Gerrard all the time. No, instead, if those two options weren't on, he'd turn back and think, well, Emi Martinez is right there in loads of space. Give it to him. Or Ezri Konsa's right there. Give it to him. I just don't understand why some football fans or pundits or whatever cannot understand that just makes total sense. Just keep the ball, right? Even if it means you're just passing it around the back slowly for a while, work the opportunity, drag the opposition in. Now, there were one or two occasions against Palace where it looked like we might make a mistake because of playing that style. And we will continue to make mistakes as we develop and get used to that style of play. But it's working for Villa at the moment. We've created a few goals starting at the back from that. And Tyron Mings has got much better and much more comfortable on the ball and only resorts to lumping it away when he has to, as he did against Crystal Palace, and I saw with my own eyes. So I think that Mings I think it's harsh he's not been picked for England, if I'm honest. He never lets them down. He's been doing very well recently for Villa. People talk about his mistakes or whatever. He makes them extremely rarely, very rarely. High quality player, Mings. I really love having him at Villa. You look at Eric Dier. Is he better than Mings? I don't think so. Mark Gahey at Crystal Palace. I mean, Palace don't concede loads, but they're in terrible form. Is he really ahead of Mings? I mean, I guess he's younger. Maybe Southgate's got one eye on the future. Maybe there's something about him he likes. Maybe he fits into a position that Mings can't. I don't know. Harry Maguire doesn't play for Manchester United, but gets picked. But he proved himself at the World Cup again, so you can't really hold that against Southgate. And then John Stones as well, Man City regular starter, I guess. So I think it's very harsh on Mings and Watkins. But like I say, I think Unai Emery can use this as something to drive them, to fuel them, and to say, prove them wrong. You deserve to be playing for England and keep going, because eventually you will again. So yeah, that's the all Villa, no filler take on it, I guess. Let me know what you think in the comments. With regards to people who might say Gareth Southgate has something against Villa, he doesn't endear himself, does he, to the Villa faithful, really? Not with the way, I remember him going to Middlesbrough back in the day and went to a club that had more ambition, is what I think was the quote. Okay, fair enough. Your playing career is short. You want to go away and win to a club where you think you might win something at the time. The confusing thing was always Jack Grealish not getting picked. I still think that's something that I think one day Southgate will look back on and think he could have handled that a lot better, because the rhetoric was incredibly confusing and it made absolutely zero sense at the time that Grealish wasn't getting picked. And then eventually when he did turn up, it was when a player got injured. And it always seemed like it was a bit of reluctance to put him on. And all through that time, Grealish was like, I would say, possibly one of the most incredible players in the world to watch. He really was. It's just fantastic. And now he's at City. So of course he's just going to get picked more regularly. It's a bit frustrating, but I don't buy into ideas that he has something against Villa or whatever. I just think his preference is to choose players who play in the Champions League or whatever. Fine. And you could argue Mings and Watkins are on the periphery, and that if there's an injury, if there's an injury, one of them will come into the squad, is how I would put it. I think they'll get their chance eventually. And so, yeah, let's not be down about it. Look, this is good. Villa are going places under Professor Unai, and Watkins and Mings have improved massively since he came in, and they will continue to improve I am sure of it. So, Brentford, here we come. Brentford? No. Bournemouth, here we come. We should avenge that terrible 2-0 away result, but Bournemouth, you never really know. They seem to get the odd decent result. They just will not die this season. Fair play to them. But that's a game you'll hope Villa can get 3 points from. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Subscribe, underlining that. Please subscribe. Love doing this. Love meeting everyone we met through the Villa. All the Villa fans and everything. It's just awesome. It's really cool doing this. So thank you for watching, and up the Villa.